Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of One Step at a Time. I am your host, Agent Avila, and today I have the privilege and honor to having Sergio Barajas here, who is the Executive Director of the NHCA, and it's the National Hispanic Construction Alliance. And we have a special venue today where AG Social Club is where we're at today, and they are being a wonderful host for us for this special podcast that we have for you guys today. So Sergio, thank you for joining us, and we're here to deliver a beautiful message on what the mission is of the NHCA. But before we get started with that, tell us a little bit about yourself, Sergio.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what I can legally share. So yes, I'm the executive director of the National Hispanic Construction Alliance. I've been in the industry in some way, shape, or form, whether that was construction financing, project management. I'm managing single-family development, multi-unit development with the city of Los Angeles for over 25 years. So I've kind of touched a lot of different parts of the business, but now I'm running this organization along with the team.
That's beautiful, beautiful. And I love what Sergio has brought to the organization and has brought to the membership. Right now, the membership's at how many chapters do we have, and what's the membership count right now?
So we're at 8 chapters at this point in time, and just about 2,500 members. So 16 months ago we were at 0 chapters and 0 members. So we've grown at a pretty good rate here. Definitely looking to push to 15 chapters by the end of the year. It's going to be a tough goal, but we're going to keep on pushing and hoping to get to 5,000 plus members before the end of the year.
Awesome. And for those of you who don't know, also, I am the inaugural president for the NHCA for the LA chapter. So big stuff is coming out, and we're here to educate and get people to the next level when it comes to the construction industry. We hit different professions, from your trade worker to your professional to your city side. And as the progress goes on, we just are building more and more partnerships. So let's talk about the story, the origin of this place, of this beautiful organization. It's what inspired the creation of the NHCA, and what personal experience motivated you to take on the executive director role?
Really, NHCA was kind of triggered by a meeting that we had at the NAREP conference in San Diego about 4 years ago, where Home Depot was a national sponsor. Part of that kind of commitment to be a national sponsor, they asked us to put together a roundtable with contractors. And so I was charged with that at that point in time. Hey, get this group together to meet with Home Depot. And I thought that it'd be tough to get 10, 15 contractors to a hotel because they're busy swinging hammers, right? Mm-hmm. And so lo and behold, we had 40 plus people show up, standing room only. And what that said to me is there's a need here that's not being met. And so that's what kind of started the idea percolating that we needed to do something in the construction space. And then as we started to explore what existed across the construction space, both locally, regionally, and nationally, we saw that there were some great groups doing great work across the country, but nobody that really had a national footprint. No one that really gave Latinos, Hispanics in the construction space a voice at the national level. And so we thought, hey, we deserve a national voice. We have a national footprint. And so now we just got to bring those two needs, desires together. And so we push forward with the launch of the National Hispanic Construction Alliance. I think what I would add to that is we called ourselves the National Hispanic Construction Alliance because we don't just want the labor. We don't just want the contractor. We want the entire ecosystem. So we want the engineer. We want the architect, Latino and non-Latino, right? We want the construction financing. Everybody that touches construction needs to be in the same room in order for us to be able to push forward a project, right?
Exactly.
And if we don't have to leave the room and we could do all that business together, then why aren't we doing it together, right? We can move quicker, create business for one another. And I think the other thing that's important to note is if you can't roll your R's, you can still come in. You don't have to be Latino to be part of NHCA. And so people ask me that all the time. And what I tell them is, when you see a Mexican restaurant, does that mean you can't go eat at the Mexican restaurant? No, that means this is the vibe. This is the vibe at NHCA. So come in, you're welcome. We want you to be part of what we're building, because at the end of the day, you're part of the greater construction ecosystem.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And to touch a little bit on it, like, what is the actual mission that the NHCA has, and what's the impact that they're trying to bring into the area?
Well, so our mission and vision in a nutshell is really to make sure that the Hispanic construction worker and contractor are represented across the entire construction industry. And if you look at our report that we released earlier this year, the State of Hispanics in Construction, Latinos make up somewhere around 33% of their overall construction workforce. That's 3.7 million Latinos in construction. Yet, if you look at where we fall in the industry, we're probably right around 14% of us are in leadership and management. So there's a big disconnect there between 33% and 14%, right? So we need to close that gap. And closing that gap is important to Latinos, but it's important to the industry as a whole, because as we grow within the construction industry, there's going to be leadership gaps in 5 years, 10 years, et cetera, et cetera. And so, in about 15 to 20 years, it's projected that Latinos will be 50+% of the industry, okay? And so if we're not preparing ourselves individually as corporate entities to take on those larger roles, then the construction industry is going to suffer in the long term.
Right. And I like that you're talking about this gap, right? So the gap, what is the NHCA doing to bridge that gap and tidying up that space?
Well, like your typical Latino, right? We don't blame others, we blame ourselves. We say there's things that we need to do to close that gap. So the first thing we're doing is identifying that the gap exists. And so if I bring in a problem to you, Adrian, it's to help you identify, well, what can I do to close that gap, right? Maybe you don't even know it exists, but it's there. And so as an organization, I feel that across the 3 academies that we've established, the Trade Workers Academy, our Construction Management Academy, and our Community Development Academy, we almost do a triage on a member-by-member basis to say, where are you at and where do you want to go? Mm-hmm. And so I think that there's a lot of challenges in front of us, but that just means there's a lot of opportunity in front of us too.
Right. And I know some of the academies we're talking about from basic blueprint reading, right? With a partnership that we have with Blue Recruit.
Right. So again, it's important. So if we start looking at the shortages that exist or the areas of improvement, one of the ones that we realized or recognized early on was being able to do bidding and estimating and being able to read blueprints. Well, guess what? There wasn't a resource out there for Hispanic workers and contractors to do that in Spanish. So that to me is elementary, that you got to have those 2 pieces, because it impacts how you bid deals, how you build deals, et cetera, right? And so we just need to equip ourselves better to do the business better. And our strength as a cohort within the construction industry is we can build anything, right? Our weakness is we build poor business entities. And so that's really the other area of focus, is making sure that we're educating ourselves and our members on how to build better businesses.
And I know part of our thing is we have our steps, right? And helping people get to that next level. So we talked about people who don't know how to read a blueprint, and we're giving them that opportunity to educate themselves in learning how to do blueprint reading, because that then takes them to the next level, right? They can become a foreman, they can become a project superintendent, a project manager, and that's taking them to that next step. But then we also have contractors that are good for building buildings for others, but not for themselves either.
Correct.
Right. So that now bridging that gap.
Right.
We have you're talking about partnerships. We have another one with that we're doing for the developer.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things actually that we're doing. So number one, you're spot on, right? Is we've got to prepare contractors to do the business better. That means being properly licensed, bonded, and insured. And then what ends up happening is opportunities start to pop up at that point in time. So Elements Hospitality. Elements Hospitality is one of the largest hotel remodelers in the country. And they approached us in December and said, hey, we've got projects that we bid across the country, and we're always looking for subs to help us, mostly flooring, painting, and some carpentry. But again, that's a huge step up for a mom and pop type of shop that's only used to doing a fix and flip here.
Right.
Let's get you some real work. Let's get you 300 doors at one time that you need to do at a Hilton hotel that's being remodeled, or a Embassy Suites, whatever it might be. So again, it's putting those opportunities, and that's great. But I think the other piece you touched on is that, we have a conference coming up in September here in San Diego. It's NHCA at Avance. And so that's a larger conference with 4 or 5 different topics that are going to be discussed: real estate, Latinos in sports, et cetera, et cetera. But for us, it's construction, right? And so the most important thing for us at that conference, which is September 18th through the 21st, is we're going to launch our initiative, which is Build the Builder. Mm-hmm. And so Build the Builder means we want to take contractors that are used to doing other people's work, right? And at the end, they say, man, I wonder what it took to get here. Well, guess what? It took you to get there. Now we just need to show you the front piece of how to get to step 1 of pouring the foundation, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. And
that's what we're doing in the Build the Builder. And so we've got 4 areas of focus over 2 days: site selection, pre-development cost assessment, both soft and hard costs, construction underwriting, as well as project management. And those 4 classes, or those 4 sessions covering 5 hours, are really meant just to bring to your attention the kind of keystone pieces to move into the development space, right? And so our hope and intent is that this will then translate into taking on the developer program. And so, we're in discussions with Freddie Mac to take on that content and deliver it to our members. So there's a progression that we're trying to follow here, right? You know the saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right?
Exactly.
So we've got a plan in place.
That's awesome. And for those who don't know what Avance is, or NARP is one of the biggest Latino
trade associations
for realtors or anybody in the real estate industry. And how NHCA came apart, it was basically without NHCA, we tell people it takes about 120 people in the construction industry to build a home, but it only takes 1 realtor to sell it.
Well, I would say 2 at the most, right? So again, I think that if we just look at the numbers, Latinos in construction represent 3.7 million people, right? Irrespective of what's going on right now with immigration enforcement, because I think we're actually more than 3.7, right? Because those are the ones that they counted, so to speak. In the entire real estate industry, you're looking at about 1.2 million people. Mm-hmm. So we know that what we're doing in the construction space dwarfs a lot of other industries, right? Sure, we're prevalent in agriculture and in the hotel industry, but we're not business owners in those industries, right?
Right.
In the construction industry, we're owners, and we need to be better owners.
Right. And that's all part of the educational process that the NHCA has set up.
Yeah.
Educating the individuals on how to grow from, going to a job site and being like, oh, well, it's 100 square feet. I'm going to charge you $200 to paint the room, right?
Yeah. For me, that's great, right? If someone comes to my house and they look around my house and, it's, $3,000 to paint. Oh, great. Let's do it, right? But I understand the culture. I understand the people. I don't mind. But if you do that at someone else's house that perhaps doesn't understand the culture, right?
Yeah.
And maybe it's a more complicated job. You know what they think? He's not professional. Yeah. She's not professional. Whatever it might be. So all of a sudden, your job or your value is devalued. Mm-hmm. So, we want to make sure that when contractors are walking in, when they're bidding jobs, take measurements, take pictures. I don't care if you use them at the end of the day, because you know what? That guy that walked in and threw a price out, he was probably spot on because he's been in the business so long, right? But it conveys the wrong message, right? It's like showing up for a business meeting 10 minutes late.
Right.
conveys the wrong message. You need to be present and look professional. And I think that that'll go a long way towards helping you develop that image that you want as a business owner.
Right. I know one of our board members from the LA chapter has developed an AI tool that helps them go into a project, speak to it, and it gives them a whole scope of work, and it helps them actually deliver something more professional than just it's $3,000 to paint this place.
Right.
know?
And there's a lot of tools out there. I know we were talking a little bit earlier today about Home Starter and how that helps with the project process and managing funding and contractors and scope of work and payment. And so, our entity is really trying to bring tools and resources. I've said this to you 100 times. These academies that we've built, they're not brick and mortar. You're not going to drive up and get out of your car and go to class. But what they do is they're really repositories of content, curriculum, and context. And I call those the 3 new C's, right?
Yeah.
Those 3 C's are what's going to build and drive your business going forward. So, let's look for that content. Let's look for that curriculum. And within those 2 fairs, all of these apps that are being developed, AI driven and web-based platforms. And so there's just a lot of tools that we need to better leverage.
Right. And I know, I want to transfer into the workforce development part of the NHCA of what you developed with that.
Yeah. So again, we don't have a class, right? But what we do is we establish relationships at the local level to do that. And so here in Los Angeles, for example, we have a relationship with Grid Alternatives. Mm-hmm. Grid Alternatives helps young people or people that want to transition into the trades actually get an education in solar installation. If I recall correctly, it's 13 weeks of solar installation training, and you walk away with $1,000 in equipment, which literally allows you to start the job the next day,
right?
If you get hired, right? We've got a relationship with the CRCD, Coalition for Responsible Community Development. They have a workforce, a trade workers academy there. Again, we engage with them. We can send the young people that we make contact with. This. I'm in conversations right now with the Mariposa Alliance, and we're trying to push forward an initiative where we can talk to kids in high school. We need to do more with young people because young people just don't understand the path forward. And if there's an obstacle, they may walk away or turn away. And, one of the things I try to make sure young people understand is, yes, you could go flip burgers and make a living when you're young, and that's great. But if we show the trajectory of being in the service industry versus being in the construction industry and show starting points versus where you're at in 5 years, that's what they need to see.
Exactly.
Right? They need to see that I can progress in the trades, union and non-union. It doesn't matter. I can continue to or aspire to build my own business and own my own business. And so these are important messages we need to share with them. And equally important, they need to see people like them already doing this, right? And so that's the important part about, the Hispanic Construction Alliance, is because we need to show other young people that this is possible, that they can be building homes, doing commercial, industrial work, and it starts with the trade.
Right. And the NHCA isn't just for licensed contractors. I want people to understand that. It's not just for people who are licensed. What we're also trying to help is helping them get licensed, right? Getting to that next level of their journey, I guess you can say.
Absolutely.
And so especially right now with, without getting too much politics, but with everything happening with the immigration status and everything like that, helping people understand, like, hey, being licensed helps you, first off, get jobs. And secondly, people are afraid to get licensed. Why? I don't know.
Well, it differs in every state, right? In some states, you need to have a legal residency to be able to get a contractor's license. And so, I can't tell you what the percentage is across the country. But a lot of people don't get licenses because they don't want to trigger that background check, quote unquote, right? They don't want to be called out on that stuff. But, it's even worse than that. I think that at the San Diego installation, when we put that board together, I had a Hispanic gentleman, Latino Mexican guy, come up to me and he says, "This is great. Really appreciate what you guys are doing for the industry." And I said, "Well, you know, how long have you been in the business?" He goes, "Oh, I've been a contractor for 10 years. And I said, "You've been licensed for 10 years?" And he goes, "No, I'm not licensed." And I'm like, well, why aren't you licensed? And this is how elementary the issue is, okay? He says, "Why aren't you licensed?" He goes, "Well, you know, my English isn't so good. And so my son is going to take the test." And it really broke my heart because the test is offered in Spanish.
Right.
So here's a guy who hadn't been taking advantage of getting licensed for at least 5 years, right? Because he had already, done 5 years somehow, some way with others, right? And he wasn't aware that the test was available in Spanish.
Right. Again, it's about educating the community.
Absolutely.
And helping them deploy the resources that we have at the NHCA to help them grow into that next level.
Yeah. And just remember, I mean, for us, you know this, we work with the Hispanic chamber, the Latin chambers, whichever happens to be in that city. We work with the Better Business Bureau. We'll work with anybody who has a population that needs our assistance. And they don't have to be Latino, right?
Yeah.
I've said this before. I think that the Hispanic or Latino culture is the broadest in the country or in the world. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is, there are guys that are as white as a piece of paper and as dark as, the darkest shade of brown. And that's because, we come from anywhere from the tip of South America to those that are in the Caribbean region, mm-hmm. So again, I feel like we embrace all cultures, all people, and you don't have to be Latino to come in and be part of our effort.
Right. That's the beauty behind it. I mean, I know I brought in an electrician, African-American. He's like, "Dude, I thought it was like, I was the only African-American there." And I go, "But did you make the connections?" He made great connections at the NHCA, got 2 contracts from some general contractors there. And the one thing he said, like, "You made me feel welcomed," even though it said National Hispanic Construction Alliance, right?
Well, and that's one of the things that we need to continue to convey and work on, right? That our doors are open to everybody. Whether it's the supplier that says, "Oh, I don't know if I'm invited or not," and making sure that we convey that message. I had that happen in San Diego at a recent event, and since I wasn't sure if this was for me or not, and I said, "Do you employ Hispanic workers, Latino workers?" "Yes." "Then we want you here because we want them here."
Yeah.
Because we know that if you come and you bring them, then we can help improve their output for you.
Exactly.
So,
and talking about the economic power and equality, there's a thing that Hispanic contractors contribute significantly, is what you're telling me, to the construction economy. So how can we better ensure they receive getting equal access to contracts, financing, and opportunities that are out there?
It's all about understanding where you're at today. It's almost like going to a doctor and doing a physical stress test. Let's figure out where you're at today, right? And so, again, in that construction management academy that we talked about, that's where we're able to see, are you licensed? Are you filing taxes? Are you bondable? Are you insurable? The thing is that you can't go from A to Z overnight. And so it's funny. I know that one of the things that a lot of people wanted me to engage in early on was in government contracting. And I'm like, in order to get your government certification or qualify for government contracts, you need to have 3 years of taxes under your business, right? Are you filing taxes? No. So that doesn't mean that they can't get there, but it means we need to show them the requirements, the steps, and help them move in that direction. And so at the end of the day, you can't get your quote unquote piece of the pie if you don't have a plate, a knife, and a fork to carve it out for yourself, right?
Exactly.
So we're here to help you figure out where you want to go, help you identify that path going forward. And let's be honest, we don't know everything. We don't know everything because, number one, we're 18 months into this. And number two, things are changing. Things are changing right now, right? And so, well, our job is to continue to stay on top of things. That's why I was in Washington, D.C. 2 weeks ago, meeting with the American Bankers Association, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, the Home Builders Institute. It's all about getting connected, being informed, and bringing that back and saying, here's what we're learning, here's where we're going, here's where the industry's going. We've got relationships with the National Roofing Contractors Association. The information is power, right? And bringing that information down to our members, down to the chapter level, is really the biggest deliverable that we have.
Yeah, and I like that you talked about that, because we're, our organization is based off of partnerships and allies that we create. So I know we've touched about a couple of them in during conversation, but for those who don't know the partnerships that we have, can you just name off a few of the partnerships that you've been able to cultivate? And
well, don't say you, we, right? And because I hate the word I, because I don't think I does anything. We do everything, right? And so us as a group, we've been able to recently secure an agreement with Lowe's, and so that'll be formally announced. Hopefully, this taping doesn't beat that. We signed an agreement with ProWood. We've just signed another agreement with the USGBC, and we've got quite a few other national and scope agreements that are in the process of being kind of pitched and managed. And so again, we're early in the process. If you think about a nonprofit being formed and being able to say that within 18 months, we have 8 chapters and 2,500 members, that's the power that NAREP brought to us, right? They brought that structure that we could build on top of, but it's our job at this point in time to grow this exponentially across the country.
That's awesome. And going into my next question is, where do you see the NHCA in 5 years from today?
Well, number one, I think that in 5 years, we should have at least 50 chapters and 50,000 members. And again, 3.7 million Hispanics in the construction industry, we should be able to pick up 50,000 relatively easy, right? But what I really hope and aspire for is that in 5 years that we, NHCA, will be taking on its own developments. Look, we've got the labor, we've got the contractors, and we already have the know-how, right? We just need to get all of those pieces in place. And so, just because you're a mechanic doesn't mean you can design and build a car, right? It means you can fix it and you know everything about it. So we're in that phase where we are figuring out all of the key components to enter the development space as a true developer. That's one of the big reasons why NAREP wanted to create this entity, because the ability to afford a home, the ability to finance a home, those are challenges at times, but the biggest challenge is inventory. So anything that we can do to help build the trades, build construction, both residential, commercial, industrial, is a plus on all sides for us.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely see that happening. I believe that with the pace that we're at, it's just gonna get there. I think it will definitely surpass it.
Well,
because you're flying. You're flying back.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm tired, but I'm tired. But then I sit down and I have conversations like this with you, and the conversation I had yesterday in Pasadena with the Casita Coalition, which is another great group focused on ADU development, and it just re-energizes me, and it says, okay, you're not tired. You're just taking a break, and so I'll take my 2-minute break, and I'm back at it. But again, I'm motivated by what we can do in this space if we, build the right foundation for NHCA, for construction workers, and for contractors across the country.
That's beautiful. And what would be your call to action today for those who are listening that just to bring them in?
Yeah, I think there's two sides to that. Number one, and you've seen this, you don't know what you're missing until you show up. I think that once you show up, you'll see what we're building, that we're bringing jobs and opportunities and the ability to bid on jobs to you as a construction worker or contractor, right? On the other side of the equation, if you're looking to hire staff, right? If you're looking to bring people on, here you're going to have a group of well-educated individuals. But I think my call to action, besides look us up at NHCA.pro, show up to the conference, see what we're doing, it would be to the sponsors and to the others out there that are stakeholders in this industry. And I don't want to say have taken us for granted, but perhaps have overlooked our contributions to the industry and our growing contributions to the industry is you should engage with us and see how we can partner. Because at the end of the day, right now there's this whole issue with diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're not that. We're business development. At the end of the day, we're trying to do business, right? And so, diversity, equity, inclusion to me means really demographics, economics, and impact. So we're the population that can really impact your economics. And so that's the definition. Someone hijacked the other definition to mean what they wanted it to mean. But for us, this is all about making sure that we build for ourselves, build for our families.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, Sergio, thank you for being a part of this, and I'm glad to be a part of this as well. And using the NHCA to fill in my gaps, right? We all have gaps in our businesses, and just to be able to learn from the other board members, from other people who are part of our membership, which is still free until the end of the year.
Yeah, well,
right?
It's gonna be a whole $50 starting next year. Yeah,
well, $50 for the year,
like
but
3 beers and an appetizer, right?
There you go. Not at Applebee's. Applebee's, they do, happy hour.
True.
But for me, the NHCA has really helped me make those connections with individuals, have helped me, kind of brainstorm, have the, what do you call, just having that conversation back and forth and seeing where I'm needing to fill my gaps in and where I'm overlooking in my business. And so I thank you for, birthing this organization.
Well,
but you have a whole team and tribe behind you then.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I'm glad you segued to that, because I want to thank you for taking on the role of president of the LA chapter. And again, I think that you see firsthand what we're trying to do, and you're experiencing firsthand what we're trying to do. And at the end of the day, this isn't about me. This isn't about you. It's about the young, Hispanic worker, and we want them to see the path forward. It's about that contractor and show them the path forward. And hopefully, 5 years from now, we're celebrating 50 chapters, 50,000 plus members, and we're doing a groundbreaking for a 300 unit housing project.
And I think we can make that happen. But, we can't push this dream forward unless we're having others come into the organization and help push it.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only English-speaking members, right? We need those Spanish speakers. Los que hablan español, por favor, lleguen con nosotros. Aquí estamos, es su casa.
Well, with that being said, I thank you again, Sergio, for coming on here and seeing how we can support one another and really making that impact that we need to do into the community. Again,
my pleasure.
We are a big number in the construction industry, and we've been very dormant. I want to say our voices have been quiet, but it's now time to, heroes roar.
That's right.
Make our statement to not just our country, but to the world around, because we are also in other parts of the world building as well.
Absolutely.
With that being said, thank you guys again for tuning in. And again, Sergio's information will be down below on the links, NHCA.pro. Look them up. Check out the cities that have chapters being developed in your area. Join us. Be part of the movement that's making a difference, not today, but for tomorrow, for our future generations to come. We thank you again.